Hey guys, it is Johnny. I'm here for the AI agent training assignment. And for my assignment, I trained ChatGPT to be able to award new students their financial aid based off of a few different factors. So here is a student who I'll just kind of walk through the process of what I trained him on and what the outputs that ChatGPT gives me. So there are four independent variables. The SAI, that's the student aid index indicated by the FAFSA of how much a family is expected to be able to pay towards college, whether they are on campus or off campus. This is going to affect their cost of attendance and how much money they'll have to pay to the school. Whether they are on an in-state tuition rate or an out-of-state tuition rate, and then their GPA. Their GPA will be used uh, from high school to calculate their college academic award. And so he's going to kind of walk us through what he's trained to do. Um, and so first is you're going to calculate the cost of attendance. So out of state tuition, I gave them just sample numbers of kind of what this process would look like. Obviously, the exact numbers would vary by the university and different policies that it has. But out of state tuition, I said was 35,000, whereas in state tuition would be 25,000. Off campus room and board, you're not paying the university dollars, and so for this calculation, that is zero. Um, and so his COA is $35,000, or this student's COA is. The next step is to calculate the institutional need. And so for that calculation, they take the cost of attendance and then subtract the student aid index. The student aid index I gave him for this student was 2,500. And so his institutional need is 32,500. There are parameters on how much institutional need can be given. It's capped at $15,000, so the maximum is 15,000. The next step is the academic aid. He has a 3.6 GPA, and so that in the sample awards that I gave him is a $10,000 academic scholarship. And next, we will combine need and academic. So he is eligible for up to the max based on the FAFSA of $15,000. And so even with the academic, he will still stay at $15,000. Step four, federal aid. His SAI was 2,500. I gave him a much simpler calculation than the actual SAI and Pell Grant calculation, but the federal aid would be $3,000 of a federal grant. All students receive a federal loan of, I gave him $6,000. Since this student is under 10,000 in SAI, it would be a subsidized loan for him in this scenario rather than an unsubsidized. He's out of state, so he receives no state scholarship. And so then the next step is total financial aid would come out to 1824,000. And then finally, they calculate out of pocket costs. And so his cost of attendance was 35,000. That's how much he's going to have to pay to come to school. He's receiving 24,000 in aid. And so out of pocket costs would be 11,000. So that's something that would be a number that this agent is able to help a prospective student get to without too much explanation. Very quick process, very error free when using it through the agent. The out-of-pocket costs without loans, so that's simply just going to add back in that 6,000. I know that's a question I get a lot in the work I do now, and so be about 17,000 without loans. And so yeah, that's just pretty simple of what my agent does. There, each of those aid calculations is based off of those four first independent variables, and so there's different academic amounts. Let's do one more student here. So we'll say that their SAI is 15,000. They're an on-campus in-state student. and we'll bump this to 25,000. And then lastly, their high school GPA is 2.2, so that should bump them below. And so let's see, he's going to do some calculating, walk us through it step by step. So $25,000 tuition for in-state room and board, so $30,000. His institutional need is only $5,000. And then his GPA qualifies him for no scholarship. So he's only going to receive here what the institutional aid is. And so his total institutional aid is $5,000. His federal aid, he's going to be not eligible for any federal aid. His state aid, he does live in state, so he's going to get a $2,000 Arkansas State scholarship. And then his final total aid is simply the institutional, his federal loan eligibility, and then his state scholarship. So $13,000. And you see this student's total out-of-pocket costs are $13,000, and their out-of-pocket costs, sorry, that's their total aid, and then their out-of-pocket costs would be $17,000 or $23,000 for without wanting to use any loans. Oh, he's very sweet. Yeah, so that's what my agent is, what he does. This is designed this is what I do professionally, and it's a pretty in-depth process. This is pretty simplistic of what the process is, but it was easier for me to train him that way. But it shows really good capabilities of him being able to take, 4 or 5 or 6 arguments and keep them all cohesively in a matter of like just 45 minutes to an hour of training. I see the benefits of this, not so much for doing it manually. It's something that can be done and coded, but he's able to break down step by step like this in a way that just simply an Excel sheet or coding formula wouldn't be able to do. A specific use of this would be to clean it up, put it as universities required to have a net price calculator where kind of this process is walked through. And the benefit of this would be that he could explain exactly why he got to the results that he did. And then another use case would be for training a financial aid administrator. So if you perfect this, I know how it works. I can do all these steps myself, and I do regularly. But when I first started, it was a lot of moving parts all at once. So if you're trying to learn to be able to double check the process, to add in extra caveats that I didn't introduce to this agent, and just keep it all cohesive and equitable, you could give him the independent variables, he could give you the answer, and then he would be able to explain, no, this is what I'm doing, this is the purpose behind it, and this is just how we get to the final aid amounts. So I had fun with this assignment. I hope that you did too, and thank you for your time this semester.